There's been a very intense escalation in the Twitter versus Modi government showdown that's been festering for the last many weeks and months. If you can believe it, viewer, Union Law and IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, the man in charge of information technology in the country, the man who's been leading the crusade against Twitter for non-compliance of the new digital rules, earlier today came out to say that he had been blocked from accessing his own Twitter account for over an hour. So agitated was the minister that he put out a thread on the Coup app. The Coup is an Indian rival app to Twitter. On Coup, the IT minister expounded on how his account had been blocked by Twitter. Minister Prasad claimed that he was denied access to his own account for an hour and wasn't able to post anything. He had effectively been barred from using his Twitter account for an hour, he says. The union minister was locked out of his account for alleged infringement of the so-called US Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This usually kicks into effect if you tweet something that is copyright of someone else. The minister later took to Twitter and launched a scathing tirade on the social media platform. Minister Prasad said that Twitter doesn't stand for free speech and is only interested in running an agenda. But first, digest that, ladies and gentlemen. The Minister of IT, the man leading the fight against Twitter, was locked out of his account for an whole hour today.
Things have happened in the past, as detractors seem to be claiming. Then in that case, there is all the more reason to ensure that these companies comply with the IT rules that the government has put in place, because it is too much of unilateralism. It is going beyond the laws of the land, and that shouldn't be acceptable to anybody. Twitter does not have an option in this matter. They will have to comply with the laws of the land.
So it has happened to me as well. The platform is duty bound to raise copyright issues if it's flagged by the owners of that particular copyright or intellectual property right. This is an issue which I had raised too in the committee meeting where we were discussing intellectual property rights and copyright. That how can news channels flag something as a copyright issue when you yourself are a participant and you're sharing it on your pages? So this is not something that it is minister specific, and I do not know why minister is making this about the Twitter platform or the social media platform. These are issues that have been unaddressed by the Information Broadcasting Ministry, by the IT Ministry, and it is coming back to bite them.
Now, in the Modi Council of Ministers, Ravi Shankar Prasad is seen as the Senapati leading the charge against Twitter in this war over compliance and compliance with Indian laws. Now, Ravi Shankar Prasad spoke exclusively to India Today's Rahul Srivastav on this Twitter versus centre policy war just a few days ago. Here's what he told us.
We gave them the last goodwill gesture. Please do.
Comply.
Otherwise, it will have consequences. They said within a week we will do it. First, they appointed a lawyer as their officer grievance. You can't do. He has to employ.
They employed a lawyer who was employed with some other law firm.
Yes.
What is the current status? Have they complied with the final compliance officer?
They haven't. I believe they have sent some name. Still address, etc. is not there. My point is, yesterday, when they said within a week we will do it, they did not do so. And this is very important, Rahul. Rule 7 of the guideline, framed under Section 87 of the Act, having lawful enforceability, clearly says, if you do not follow these guidelines or the rules, then you will lose Section 79 status and other attendant penal law consequences.
That means you are not issuing any order.
No.
It is by default that since you don't comply, you lose that status.
The withdrawal or extinction of your status as an intermediary exemption becomes effective because of operation of law itself. From the government we have said, all right, we will give you 1 week more goodwill gesture. I acknowledge these platforms have empowered ordinary Indians. The point is, we are empowering the ordinary users of these platforms against misuse. We are out of it. Let me make it very clear. But the point again, I would revert a very simple, straight question. Why should you be reluctant to enforce a mechanism which is your user-centric?
What is your hunch? Why don't they do it?
Don't ask me, ask them. For instance, I don't wish to make any comment on the issue as to what is happening in Ghaziabad. The police is doing, others are doing. I will not be making any, except to give one example. As that particular offending tweet has even come on your channel or other channels, it is in public domain. It was, I would say, offensive. Are you not supposed to examine whether you should allow your...
Also a threat to public order.
Huh?
Also a threat to public order.
Absolutely. Apart from the fact that the color of communal angle was found to be completely incorrect in the prima facie investigation, you are giving an impression that we are having a system of checking whether this particular presentation is manipulated or not. Why you have double standards on that? These questions have to be asked. And let me say it very emphatically on Rahul's show, that we are proud of our democracy. We have a constitution which gives freedom of speech and expression. We have a robust judiciary. We have got a robust media. You are asking me all the questions. And ultimately accountable to the people of the country.
Now, on this entire raging Twitter versus Modi Mantri fire, Shashi Tharoor, Congress MP, also chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology, has now reacted to this entire Twitter blocking a minister controversy, saying that he will be seeking an explanation from Twitter India for the locking of the IT minister's accounts. Shashi Tharoor says that his own accounts similarly faced action in the same way in the past. We will also seek answers on the rules and procedures Twitter follows while operating in India, says Shashi Tharoor, while adding ammunition to the government's fire against Twitter. Shashi Tharoor has also said that getting a notice from a UK-based organization citing Twitter's role as a service provider under a US law points to the challenges of Twitter operations in India at this time. Now, bringing the focus back to Ravi Shankar Prasad's own Twitter account. He's followed by millions. He's the IT and law minister. He's the man who is the face of the government's fight against Twitter over non-compliance of Indian law. Now, why did Twitter apparently deny access to Ravi Shankar Prasad's account? First, he got a notice for violation of the quote-unquote US Digital Act. The notice was for content posted on his account. So it was regarding specific content that he had posted on his Twitter account. The notice was on alleged infringement of copyright. Very, very serious charge. But that's what led to this blocking apparently. Twitter will remove the identified material, which is what happens in such a situation. And the account is to be suspended for repeated infringement, is what they warn when they send that message to the operator of the account. In this case, it's Ravi Shankar Prasad. Now let's take a look at how this showdown between the centre and the Modi government has escalated over the last few days. 13th of June, compliance officer, which was mandatory under the new IT rules, was not appointed by Twitter before the required deadline. June 16th, the police filed an FIR against Twitter over a Ghaziabad assault video which had not been marked as manipulated, even though the UP police had said it was being projected in a false and misleading manner on Twitter. On June the 18th, the police sent a notice to Twitter India over the Ghaziabad assault video and the alleged fake news. June 25th, Twitter blocks the IT minister's account for an hour for alleged infringement of the US Digital Act. So this is a face-off that has been escalating in a pretty consistent manner. Joining me live here on 5